Not in giant stadiums packed with cameras and millions of fans, but in a world of kings, warriors, pyramids, and empires. Imagine ancient Egypt facing ancient Rome in a championship match. Imagine Viking fans sailing across the sea to support their team. Imagine a referee trying to control a game where some players carried swords just a few hours earlier. It sounds ridiculous, but the more you think about it, the more interesting the question becomes. If FIFA suddenly appeared in the ancient world, who would qualify? Where would they play? What would the rules look like? And which civilization would become the first world champion? The answers are stranger than you might expect. To imagine an ancient FIFA World Cup, we first need to understand one thing. People have loved ball games for thousands of years. Long before modern soccer existed, civilizations across the world were already kicking, throwing, and chasing balls. In ancient China, soldiers played a game called Kuju. Players tried to kick a ball through an opening without using their hands. It looked surprisingly similar to modern soccer. In Mesoamerica, civilizations like the Maya played a famous ball game that could attract huge crowds. The rules were different, but the excitement was real. The ancient Greeks and Romans had their own ball sports too. Some were rough, very rough. So if FIFA somehow arrived in ancient times, it would not be introducing people to sports, it would be introducing them to a global competition. And that is where things would become complicated. The first challenge would be travel. Today, national teams fly across continents in a few hours. Ancient civilizations had no airplanes, no trains, and no highways. Imagine Egypt qualifying for the tournament and needing to play a match in China. The journey could take months. Players might cross deserts, mountains, forests, and dangerous seas before even reaching the stadium. Some teams might arrive exhausted before the tournament even started. Others might never arrive at all. Storms, pirates, bandits, and wars could eliminate teams before kickoff. In fact, surviving the trip might be harder than winning the tournament. But eventually, the strongest civilizations would gather in one location. And that raises another question. Who would host the event? Ancient Rome would probably be a favorite. The Roman Empire had enormous arenas, advanced roads, and experience organizing massive public events. A Roman-hosted World Cup could attract tens of thousands of spectators. The opening ceremony would likely include soldiers, musicians, exotic animals, and grand parades. The emperor himself might attend the final match, but Rome would not be the only candidate. Ancient Egypt could build spectacular venues near the Nile. China might create huge tournament grounds inside its powerful dynasties. Even wealthy cities like Athens could compete for hosting rights. Wherever the tournament happened, it would quickly become more than a sporting event. It would become a battle of prestige. Every civilization would want to prove that it was the greatest society on Earth. And that pressure would change everything. Modern soccer players train hard. Ancient athletes trained for survival. Many competitors would be farmers, hunters, soldiers, or warriors. Their daily lives already demanded strength, endurance, and discipline. Some teams might spend years preparing for the tournament. Kings and rulers would likely fund training camps. Victories would bring honor to entire civilizations. Defeats could become national embarrassments. And because ancient rulers loved competition, they might look for every possible advantage. That is where things start getting dangerous. Imagine ancient coaches searching for ways to make players stronger. Special diets, secret training methods, religious rituals, lucky charms. Some civilizations might believe the gods could influence the outcome of matches. Before important games, teams could visit temples and offer gifts to seek divine favor. If a team won, people might claim the gods supported them. If they lost, they might blame angry spirits or bad omens. Suddenly, every match would carry enormous emotional weight. But the biggest challenge would still be the game itself. Modern FIFA rules are strict. Ancient civilizations were not exactly known for playing gently. Many ancient sports allowed heavy physical contact. Some were closer to battles than games. If FIFA officials tried enforcing modern rules, they would have their hands full. Imagine a Roman defender arguing that tackling an opponent into the ground is perfectly normal. Imagine a Viking striker insisting that a broken nose is simply part of the sport. Red cards would probably become very common. Referees might be the bravest people in the entire tournament. Yet, over time, teams would adapt. They would learn that skill often beats brute force. Fast passing, clever movement, and teamwork could defeat stronger opponents. Civilizations known for military discipline might gain an advantage. The Romans, for example, excelled at organization. Chinese teams could bring advanced strategy and coordination. Greek athletes might combine speed with technical skill. The competition would become fascinating. But then something unexpected would happen. The tournament would start changing the ancient world itself. Civilizations that normally fought wars might suddenly meet on soccer fields instead. Merchants would travel alongside fans. Ideas would spread between cultures. Languages, technologies, and traditions could move across continents faster than before. For a few weeks, rival empires might compete without drawing swords. The World Cup could become one of the few events that united distant civilizations, and that might be its greatest achievement. Still, only one team could lift the trophy, so who would actually win? There is no certain answer, but historians might place a few civilizations near the top. Rome would have resources, organization, and population. China would have discipline, innovation, and experience with ball games. Greece would bring athletic traditions that inspired sports for centuries. And some underdog civilizations could surprise everyone. History is full of smaller societies defeating larger powers through strategy and determination. A championship run by an unexpected team would not be impossible. In fact, it might become the greatest story of the tournament. But here is the real twist. The most important winner might not be any team at all. It might be the idea of international competition itself. Ancient civilizations often saw outsiders as enemies, rivals, or strangers. A global tournament would force people to see each other differently, not as invading armies, not as distant myths, but as competitors, athletes, and fellow human beings. That simple change could have enormous consequences. Perhaps fewer conflicts would begin, perhaps trade would grow faster, perhaps civilizations would learn from each other sooner than they did in real history. A soccer tournament cannot erase every problem, but it can create connections where none existed before. And that is something we still see today. Modern World Cups bring together countries with different languages, religions, cultures, and histories. For a short time, billions of people focus on the same event. They celebrate, argue, cheer, and dream together. In a way, that is exactly what an ancient FIFA World Cup would have done. The uniforms would be different. The stadiums would be made of stone instead of steel. The fans might arrive on ships instead of airplanes. But the emotions would feel familiar. The excitement, the hope, the heartbreak, the joy of victory, and the pain of defeat. Because even though civilizations rise and fall, some things never really change. Thousands of years ago, just like today, people loved competition, stories, and the chance to prove themselves. And if FIFA had somehow existed in ancient times, the greatest battle between civilizations might not have been fought with armies at all. It might have been decided by a single ball rolling across a dusty field while the entire ancient world held its breath.